Today we're going to be adding and subtracting like fractions. So when we are adding or subtracting fractions, we need to make sure that we are adding the same thing. And I mean by apples and apples, like we talked about before. So that means that we need to have the same denominator. So just like comparing to add and subtract fractions, they need to have the same denominator or the same bottom. And we need to always simplify your answer. So let's look at this first example here. So I have 2/10 plus 5/10. Well, do I have the same amount of is my denominator the same? Yes, my bottom number is the same. So that means that I'm just comparing, or I'm adding these fractions here, and I'm using tenths as my denominator. So I now just need to add the 2 plus the 5. So what's 2 plus 5? That's 7. So I'd have 7/10 as my final answer. I cannot simplify that, so I am done. Okay, looking at our second fraction, I have 8/9 minus 1/9. So my denominators are the same. So now all I have to do is I'm going to keep my same denominator, which is 9ths, and I have 8 minus 1, which is just 7. And then can I simplify it any further? No, I can't. So my final answer is 7/9. And how you determine if you can simplify it is, can you divide the top number and the bottom number by the same number? Or do they have the same factors or one similar factor between each other? And they don't. So let's look at this example 3. I see that I have 4 plus 4 over 12. So I'm going to go ahead and add the 4 plus 4, which is 8. And then the 12 stays the same because I'm talking 12ths, okay? So now, can I simplify? Yes, I can. So I can divide the same number on the top and on the bottom. So my largest number that I can divide by on the top and bottom is 4. So 8 divided by 4 is 2, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. So then I get, as a final answer, 2/3. Let's look at example 4. So I see 15 minus 7 over 29. So we're going to go ahead and do just the numerator. So 15 minus 7 is 8. And then I have 29. So it's 8/29. Can I simplify any further? No, I don't have any factors for 29. So this is my final answer, is 8/29. Let's go on to the next page. So I want you to remember the rules for adding and subtracting integers. So I want you to think, when we did subtracting, remember I asked you to change that subtraction into addition, and how we did that was we added the opposite, okay? Or the inverse, right? So now I'm going to talk about what if the signs are different. So once you change it into addition, what if the signs are different? So if they are different, then you need to subtract. Okay, and what I mean by signs, remember, so if this would be like a negative 3/4 plus 1/4. Okay, so this would be, the signs are different. You would subtract in your head, and then you would keep the sign of the larger absolute value. Okay, so you look at it and say, okay, this number is furthest away from 0, so that's the sign I'm going to use. Okay, so what are the signs? What if the signs are the same? Well, that means that you're going to add and keep the sign you're working with. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the examples. So looking at example 5, I see that I have a negative plus, so I'm already adding a negative. So my signs are the same, okay? So I'm going to add the numbers together. So I have 4 plus 1, which is 5, and 6. And now I have to keep the sign that I was working with. Well, I was working with negative, so I'm going to put a negative there. So it's negative 5, 6. Let's go on to the next problem. So looking at this one, I see that it's 5/8 minus 7/8. Okay, so it's subtraction. So I'm going to make an addition problem. So I have 5/8 plus, and remember we changed it to adding the opposite, a negative 7/8. Okay, so now that it's an addition, now are the signs the same or are they different? Well, this is the positive, this is the negative. So that means that my signs are different. So that means I'm going to subtract in my head and keep the larger absolute value of that sign. Okay, so subtract 7 minus 5, which is 2. So I get 2 eighths. Now I have 5 eighths and I have negative 7/8 or a 7. So I'm really looking at the 7 and the 5. Which one has the larger absolute value? The 7 or the 5? The 7 does. So that means my answer will be negative. Okay. Now, can I simplify? If we can simplify, we need to simplify. So we can by dividing by 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. So my final answer would be negative 1/4. Here's our last example. So I have Sophia ate 3/5 of cheese pizza. Jack ate 1/5 of a cheese pizza, and 2/5 of pepperoni pizza. How much did Sophia and Jack eat all together? Well, Sophia, so that means Sophia ate 3/5 of the cheese pizza. So I'm going to put 3/5 is Sophia. And then Jack ate 1/5 of a cheese pizza. Okay. And 2/5 of pepperoni. So this is Jack. And this is Sophia. And then it says, how much pizza did Sophia and Jack eat together? So we need to figure out the total amount of pizza they ate together. So we're going to add them all together. Well, I'm going to do 3/5 plus 1/5. Well, 3 plus 1 is 4, so I have 4/5. Plus, I have 2 more fifths. So 4/5 plus 2/5 is 6/5. Can I simplify that? Yes, I can. How many times does 5 go into 6? 1 time. And then you're going to have 1 left over out of 5. So it'd be 1 and 1/5. And then if you don't remember how to do that, this does mean 6 divided by 5. So you can do long division. So 6 divided by 5. So 5 goes into 6 1 time. You're going to put the 5 down here because 5 times 1 is 5. Subtract, you get 1. This is your remainder, which is 1 out of 5. So it'd be 1/5. Okay. All right. So what does 1 and 1/5 mean? So how much did they eat all together? So I would say Sophia and Jack ate 1 and 1/5 pizza together. That's a lot of pizza. That is the end of adding and subtracting fractions with like denominators.